Hello and welcome to my morning note. Let's talk about the Olympics. It's a subject which is really dominating conversation here in London with only 3 weeks to go. The giant Olympic rings are now in place on Tower Bridge, just down the Thames from me here. But there is also a very big debate underway. It's going to be very exciting, but it's also going to create a lot of expense and a lot of inconvenience at a point when Britain is going through austerity. Can it really be justified? Are there really going to be the long-term benefits that some politicians claim? And what are the evidence from previous Olympiads? Now, Goldman Sachs has a long history of looking at the economic impacts of sporting events, and they've just produced this very interesting report on the impact of the Olympics. With me now to discuss this is Goldman's chief European economist, Huw Pill. Huw, thanks for being here today. We're going to be spending £8.5 billion in round numbers on these Olympics, which is far more than was originally advertised at a point when there are supposed to be a lot of spending cuts. What are the chances we're actually going to get a return on that investment here in London?
We've seen from the government some estimates that they think the benefits would be about £13 billion over the indefinite future.
And how do you compute that?
Well, I think they try and make estimates of what the benefits in terms of investment and greater tourism and so forth coming into London. And I think on those types of returns, which I think, to be honest with you, it's hard for us to assess as outsiders, their numbers. We think, though, that there are reasons, if you take that at face value, to say that's an underestimate of the overall costing, because these numbers don't include what costs you can recoup by selling the houses in the Olympic Village and so forth and so on, where you can reclaim some of the expenditure that's already been made.
Wow, so you're actually suggesting that these benefits have been understated. That's encouraging.
All right, I think so, and I think our view is that on a purely kind of cost-benefit analysis, there is a positive return to the Olympics. Not all of that will accrue immediately. In the short term, there'll be some costs, some disruption, as you said. But if we account over the longer periods and allow these longer term benefits to accrue, I think there is a positive. There's a different question, though, of course, as to whether the return you're getting on your investment is sufficient to pay the capital cost or is better than the return you may have got on alternative investments. I think our view would probably be the answer to that is yes, but I mean, it's very difficult to make this kind of opportunity cost assessment.
Okay, let's have a look at some of the historical trends. What we're looking at here is the 3 times that the Olympics have gone to countries that were going through very fast growth, Mexico, South Korea and China 4 years ago. And you can see that in all 3 cases, growth seems to have slowed after the Olympics rather than before. Is that a fair reflection that the Olympics tends to be a reward for a period of growth and might be a good signal to move away from countries that have hosted them?
Well, I think these 3 countries stand out as countries that have gone through rapid periods of development, and I think you're right to say that the capstone of that rapid period of development was the ability and willingness to hold a global event like the Olympics. And we know that at some point the pace of growth does naturally slow. And whether you can attribute that slowing to just the moment you have the Olympics, I think it's hard to say that's a causal effect. But I think you can see a repeated pattern. Of course, the UK is not in the same situation as these 3 countries.
Regrettably for those of us in the UK, yes.
And I don't think you're going to see a slowdown as profound. You may see a slowdown for other reasons.
Now let's quickly take a look at stock markets, which interest very many people. This is what's happened in each of the last Olympiads in the 4 years after each of these countries were hosts. Goldman did a similar exercise. Is there any sensible Olympic effect that you can discern?
Well, I think it's all a bit of fun. That's the point of the Olympics.
Yes.
It's the not the winning, but the taking part, after all. But I think what you see in our study, which replicates quite similar to what we have here, is that you do see systematic positive effect on stock markets following Olympics, even though, again, I wouldn't associate that with the causal behavior. We also looked at whether stock markets responded positively to the announcement of the host cities, with the idea that this would capture the news component of the Olympics are coming. That's a complicated exercise because, unfortunately, in London, the announcement of the Olympics was followed by the 7/7 terrorist attack. So one can't extract that in the London case. But in general, looking across Olympics over the last 50 years or so, you don't really see much effect. So perhaps that's a reason for caution, for thinking that the macroeconomic benefits overall will be very big.
Okay, Huw, thank you very much indeed. My takeaway from this is that perhaps there will be a better long-term return for the country and the city than I had feared from the large amount of money I have splashed out on buying Olympics tickets.